The wind screamed across the frozen land. Snow fell so fast that the ground disappeared under white. The trees stood like bones, twisted and black. The air was sharp and cold. Nothing moved except a small figure. Trying to walk Dot, she was just a girl. But not a human girl. Her ears were long. Her skin was soft blue. Her dark hair stuck to her wet cheeks. She wore only a thin brown robe, not made for cold. Her feet were bare. Each step in the snow hurt her badly. She was lost. She was weak. And she was all alone. Her name was Ilari. She was from a peaceful alien race who lived near the forest mountains. Her village had been burned in a sudden attack. Her mother told her to run when the soldiers came. And she did. She ran into the forest and never looked back. Now the forest was gone. Now there was only ice. She tried to keep walking, but her legs shook. Her fingers were red and stiff. She could not feel them anymore. The wind blew stronger. Snowflakes hit. Her eyes like tiny knives, Dot Ail El Eri, fell. The snow felt soft at first, like a blanket. Her small body curled up. Maybe sleep would help. Maybe she could rest for a little while. Maybe someone would come, but no one did. Time passed. The storm grew louder. Her breathing slowed Dot. Then dash, crunch, dot a sound. Footsteps, dot heavy boots. Ilari opened her eyes just a little. Everything was blurry. She saw something dark moving closer. A shadow. A shape. It stopped near her and knelt down. A voice. Deep. Rough. Not from her kind. Hey, what the hell? It was a human. Dot. His name was Mason. He had come to this frozen world on a military drop, part of a small scout group. But a surprise storm had cut him off from his team. He was trying to find shelter when he saw her in the snow. Dot at first. He thought it was just another body. But then she moved barely. Damn it, Mason said. She's alive. He dropped to his knees and quickly pulled off his coat. He wrapped it around her tiny form. Her skin was ice cold. Her eyes fluttered. She was barely breathing. You're just a kid, he muttered. Ilari made a small sound, like a whisper. She was too cold to speak clearly. But Mason saw the fear in her eyes. She thought he might hurt her. He didn't move fast. He didn't yell. He just spoke softly. I won't hurt you. You hear me? I'm going to help. She blinked slowly. That was all she could do. Mason looked around. Snow was getting deeper. Visibility was almost zero. He picked her up gently. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her body didn't even resist. He held her close to his chest, trying to share body heat. Hang in there, kid, he said. Don't close your eyes. But Ilari already had. Mason started walking. He had seen a cliff wall nearby. Maybe there was a cave or ledge he could use. He knew the rules: don't stop, don't waste energy, and don't let the cold win. But this wasn't just about him anymore. He walked through the storm, holding a tiny life in his arms. Behind them, the snow covered her old footprints. The world was silent again. But now there was a spark, one life trying to save another. And the storm watched quietly. Mason felt her shiver in his arms, but she didn't wake. His legs pushed through snow up to his knees. The storm was louder now, howling like a wild beast. The wind slapped his face. Ice stung his eyes. He didn't stop. He wasn't even sure why he was doing this. She wasn't human. He didn't know her name, her species, or if she was dangerous. But none of that mattered. What he saw was simple. A child, dying in the cold, left with nothing. No. One deserved that. Not even an alien. There, Mason whispered. Through the storm, a shadow appeared, a low rock wall with an overhang. Snow was piled up around it, but the inside looked dry. It was small, but enough to block the wind. He moved fast, digging a space clear with his arms. Then he crouched and slid inside, holding her tight. It was dark, cold, but it was shelter. He set her down on his coat, gently. Her hands were like glass. Her skin had no color left. He rubbed her arms, her hands, anything to bring warmth back. "Stay with me," he whispered. He opened his pack. What little was left. 1 emergency heat pack, 1 ration bar, a water bottle, half frozen. He cracked the heat pack and tucked it beside her chest. The warmth spread slowly. Then her fingers twitched. Mason leaned close. "That's it. Come on. You're still in there." She let out a tiny breath. Her eyelids fluttered. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Then a whisper. "Do not hurt?" Mason blinked. "What?" She looked scared. Even half frozen, she feared him. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "You were out there alone. I couldn't leave you." She looked at his face. Her vision was blurry, but she could see his eyes. They were not cruel. They were tired, cold, but not cruel. He offered the water bottle, warmed under his coat. She took a sip. Her hands shook. "What's your name?" he asked. She tried, but her voice cracked. She touched her chest weakly and whispered, "Elari, Elari," Mason repeated. "I'm Mason." They sat in silence, only the wind outside filling the air. Elari looked around, confused. "Why, help?" Mason hesitated. "I have a little girl," he said finally. "Not your kind, but small like you. Same eyes. She'd be your age. She died last winter. Arth." Elari stared at him. She didn't understand everything, but she felt it pain behind his words. Mason looked away. No child should die cold. Not again. A tear rolled down his cheek. He wiped it fast, like a soldier trained to hide feelings, but Elari saw it. She pulled the coat tighter around her and whispered, "Thank you, Mason." The storm raged on, but inside the small rocky shelter, a human and an alien girl sat quietly. 2 souls trapped in the same storm, warming each other, not just with fire, but with something much stronger. Trust. Asterisk. She screamed in her sleep. Mason jolted awake, hand going straight to the knife at his side. But it wasn't a threat. It was a dream. Elari twisted in the coat, her eyes shut tight, her hands grabbing at nothing. She cried something in her language, soft and strange, but full of fear. Mason moved closer. "Elari, it's okay. You're safe now." Her eyes snapped open, wide, wild. Then, slowly, her gaze found his face. She remembered. She was still alive, still with him, and not alone. She sat up slowly, hugging her knees. The snow had stopped, but the cold still bit the air. Her fingers were less blue now, but her body was weak. Her breath came in soft puffs. Mason handed her the ration bar. She stared at it. "Food," he said. "It's not great, but it'll help." She sniffed it first. Her kind didn't trust quickly. But she took a bite. It was hard, dry, and strange. But to Elari, it tasted like life. She looked up at him, chewing slowly. "You? Soldier?" Mason nodded. "Yeah, human army. Crash. Team, unstranded now." She tilted her head. "Crash? Like me?" That word "like me" hung in the air. "You crashed too?" Mason asked. Elari's eyes lowered. Her fingers dug into her robe. "Bad people came. Big fire in the sky. My family ran. I fell. I woke. In snow. I walked long." Mason watched her carefully. She didn't cry. She had already done that. Now she just remembered. "Why were they after you?" he asked gently. She looked at him, her lips tight. "They say My kind is weak, but I am not weak. The fire in her voice surprised him. Mason gave a soft smile. No, you're not. He reached into his bag and pulled out a blanket. You'll need more than pride to stay alive tonight. She accepted it, wrapping it tightly. Mason looked out from the cave's mouth. The storm had passed, but the wind still whispered across the hills. Elari, he said, do you know if they'll come back? The ones who hurt your people? She didn't answer at first, then softly. Yes, Mason tensed. Soon? She nodded. If they see smoke, sound, heat, they come. So we're not safe here, Mason said. No, she replied. But you saved me. I save you now. He chuckled. We'll save each other, yeah? She didn't understand the joke, but she smiled anyway. Then something shifted outside, a shape moving on the snow. Mason froze. Hilari's eyes went wide. He moved fast, crouched low, blade drawn. He peeked out slowly. A shadow passed. Slow. Big dot, not human. Not animal, Hilari whispered. Watcher. What's a watcher? Mason asked. Smells fear. Sees heat, very old. Mason whispered, so if we move, it sees us. She nodded. If we run, we die. He looked at her. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. Not from this world, no. But she had already learned how to survive it. And now, they'd have to do it together. Asterisk, the growl was soft, but not distant. Mason stayed still. Outside the cave, something heavy moved through the snow. Crunch, pause, sniff. A second growl, lower this time. More curious. More dangerous. Ellery pressed herself against the rock wall, her body small under the blanket. Her eyes locked onto Mason's. She didn't speak, but he understood. Watcher. Mason reached slowly for the fire starter. No, she whispered. No light, it sees heat. He froze. Every soldier knows fear. But this was survival fear. Ancient fear. The kind that says, don't move. Don't even breathe. They listened as the beast outside circled the cave entrance. It sniffed. It knew they were there. Mason tightened his grip on the handle of his knife. But in his mind, he already knew if it came inside, the knife wouldn't be enough. Elari moved closer to him. Her small fingers touched his arm. Then she did something strange. She placed her hand gently on his chest and closed her eyes. Are you doing? He whispered. Hide our heat, she said softly. My kind can do small things. Mason felt it. His body grew colder. The heat faded from his skin, from the air. It was like they were fading into the cave. Outside, the creature paused. Growled once more, and then turned away. The sound of footsteps faded into the storm. Mason finally exhaled. You saved us. Elari opened her eyes, tired. Her breathing was heavy. Only for now. Mason checked his gear. We can't stay here. If more come? She nodded. There is old shelter. My people used it. Where? Down mountain, through dark path. Mason looked outside. The snow was deep again, but lighter now. He pulled out his thermal wrap and helped Elari cover her legs. She couldn't walk well yet, but they didn't have time. He lifted her onto his back. Tell me where to go. She held onto him tightly. Her voice soft but sure. Follow the broken trees. They left the cave. Wind hit them again, but it wasn't as angry as before. Still, every step was heavy. Every sound could mean death. Elari whispered directions. Left, then small hill. Watch ground ice. Mason walked for over an hour. His body ached, but he didn't stop. And then they saw it, a structure, half buried in snow. Metal, old, and bent, but still standing. A door. Slightly open. Mason pushed it hard. The inside was dry, dark, silent. He set Alari down gently and sealed the door behind them. They were safe for now, but the shelter was not empty. A soft blinking light came from deep inside, and then a voice, robotic, in a language Mason didn't understand. Alari's face went pale. "What is it?" he asked. She whispered, "This was not just a shelter. It was a prison." Asterisk. The door clicked shut behind them. Inside, the air was dry but full of dust. A long metal hallway stretched into darkness. Red warning lights blinked along the walls. 1, 2, 3. Each blink felt like a heartbeat. Mason held his flashlight up. "This place gives me a bad feeling." Alari didn't move. She sat on the floor near the wall, arms around her knees. She stared ahead, silent. Mason crouched beside her. "What is this place?" She answered without looking. "Old camp, long ago. My people came here. Some never left." "Why?" She finally turned to him. "Because the humans built it." Mason blinked. "What?" Alari touched the floor. "Long before I was born. A war, my people. Captured. Locked here, forgotten." Mason looked around again. The metal walls, the blinking lights, the dried-up control panel. It was a prison. She wasn't lying. He sat beside her. "And now you're back. In the same place." She nodded. "But I have you." The words hit him harder than the storm outside. He didn't know how to respond. So he changed the subject. "How's your leg?" Ilari didn't answer. Mason reached over and gently lifted the edge of her robe. Her ankle was swollen, blue and black. Frostbite had started. Deep, ugly. He bit his lip. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked away. "You already carry me. I didn't want to be more weight." He took out a heat patch, water, and a clean cloth. "You're not weight," he said. "You're a life." She watched him as he worked. His hands were rough, but careful, like he had done this before. He spoke while wrapping her leg. "My daughter, she had bad lungs. I used to sit beside her bed every night. Same way." Alari's eyes softened. "She died?" He nodded. "Years ago. Cold season. I couldn't save her." She reached forward and touched his hand. Now it was her turn to comfort him. "I think she would like me," Alari said softly. He smiled for the first time in days. Suddenly. Noise. From deep in the shelter. Metal. Shifting. Moving. Mason stood up fast, knife ready. "What was that?" Ilari's face went pale. She whispered, "Someone woke up." Mason stepped toward the hallway. "Stay here. Don't move." Ilari grabbed his arm. "No, you don't know what they kept here." "I'm not letting anything hurt you," he said. "But they weren't animals," she whispered. "They were my people, broken ones." Another sound closer now. A soft groan, a dragging step. Ilari's voice cracked. "It knows my voice." Mason's eyes narrowed. "Then we stay quiet. We survive this. Together. Inside the shelter." Something ancient and forgotten was waking up, and it remembered the pain Ilari had tried so hard to forget. Asterisk. The hallway groaned again. Metal echoed like a breath from a sleeping beast. Mason kept his knife in hand. The flashlight shook slightly. His heart beat louder than the wind outside. "Ilari," he whispered, "stay behind me. Don't speak. Don't move." She obeyed. Something scraped the floor slow, heavy, broken. Figure stepped from the shadows. Not fully alive, not fully alien. Its skin was dry and pale, like ash. Eyes wide, glowing faint red. Its mouth hung open. Its body shook with every step, as if it no longer knew how to move. Ilari gasped. "It's Dama." Mason lowered his weapon slightly. "You know him?" She nodded slowly. He was a healer. Taken in the last wave, the humans, they changed him. They tested his mind. The thing groaned, head twitching toward her voice. "Elari," it rasped. "Cold, still cold." She stepped forward, but Mason blocked her. "It's not him anymore. I know," she whispered, "but maybe. Part of him remembers me." The figure staggered closer. Mason didn't want to fight, but he would if it meant keeping her safe. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A second. Figure moved in the shadows. Not one. Two. Elari stepped back, breathing fast. "We can't fight them," she said. "Then we run," Mason replied. He turned, grabbed Elari in his arms again, and dashed down the hallway. Doors blurred past. Rusted signs, blinking panels, broken cables. Behind them, the twisted voices echoed. "Don't go. Still cold. Still cold." They found a stairwell. Mason kicked it open. They went down deep into the base dot at the bottom. A chamber appeared. Inside was something different. Warm, soft orange light glowed from the walls. A strange old generator still worked. The air felt alive. Mason set Elari down. "What is this?" She looked around. "The fire room. My people used it for healing. It runs on life energy." Mason blinked. "It's still working?" Elari nodded. "Because something inside remembers kindness." She limped over to the control panel. It lit up when she touched it. The walls glowed brighter. For the first time since the storm began, Mason felt real warmth. He looked down at Elari, smiled, but the smile didn't last. The footsteps came again. Louder now. They had followed. Mason took position near the door, knife ready. Elari held up a hand. "Let me try." She stepped to the doorway. When the figures appeared, she lifted both hands and spoke in her own tongue. Her voice echoed with something older than fear-hope. The creatures stopped. Their heads tilted. They remembered her. They remembered before. Then, slowly they stepped back and vanished into the dark. Elari dropped to her knees. Mason rushed to her. "You okay?" She nodded weakly. "The fire helped, but took much energy." He helped her lie down. "Rest. I'll watch the door." She closed her eyes. Outside, the cold still ruled, but here in this forgotten room, they had found something rare. A fire dot not just of heat, but of memory. And trust. Mason didn't sleep. The orange glow of the fire room kept them warm, but only for a while. The generator clicked, then slowed. Its light flickered, dimmer with each pulse. Elari was still too weak. Her body trembled. Her breath had turned shallow. Mason sat beside her, hands tight around the last heat pack. "It's not enough," he whispered. The base was dying, and so was she. He had one choice left. He took off his outer jacket and wrapped it fully around her small frame. Then he activated the heat pack and tucked it inside. She stirred. "What are you doing?" "You need it more." "But you will freeze," she said, voice thin. Mason smiled. "I've been cold before." He lifted her gently. Her head rested against his chest. She could barely move, but her eyes watched him with silent fear. "Where?" she asked. "There's a signal tower," he said. "If I reach it, I can call for help." "Too far." "Maybe, but you're not dying in this place." He stepped into the hallway. The firelight stayed behind them. As they walked up the old stairwell, the walls grew colder. The wind returned. Snow fell again outside. Mason's teeth chattered. His arms shook, but he never loosened his grip. He spoke softly to her as he walked. "Keep talking, Elari. Tell me something." She whispered, "What does Earth look like?" He smiled. "It has green trees, real ones, and blue skies. My daughter used to love the rain. I want to see rain," she said. "You will." They walked past the frozen forest. Ilari's eyes fluttered. Her voice dropped. "You feel cold." "I'm okay," he lied. She pulled her arms from the blanket and tried to cover him. But her hands were too small. Then they saw it, a tall, broken tower, still standing. A blinking red light at the top. Mason stumbled toward it. Inside, a half-frozen console. He slammed his fist down. The screen lit up, emergency beacon ready. He pressed it. Blinked 3 times. Then held steady. A signal was sent. He dropped to his knees. Ilari opened her eyes weakly. Did it work? "Yes," he said. "Help is coming." She smiled, faint but real. "You are strange." He laughed once. "You too." Then her voice became softer. "You gave me life." He leaned closer. She whispered, "Now, I give you something too." Her hand pressed against his chest. A warmth spread through him. Not heat, but something else. Like memory. His mind filled with images. Ilari's home, her family, her laughter before the war. It was her soul touching his. Tears rolled down his cheeks. She whispered, "You are home now." He held her tight. And for the first time, he didn't feel cold anymore.